Ladies and gentlemen, today I wanted to show you a really cool game that I played a few years ago utilising one of my favourite openings, the Scotch Gambit. Now, as you know, I'm currently working on my opening repertoire for whites. This is quite a big project because I'm kind of trying to create a comprehensive opening repertoire guide for the tournament players. So of course there's quite a lot of lines that I'm looking at the minute and trying to make it as interesting and as informative as possible. But I thought in the meantime, because I've not uploaded in about a month or so, I'll show you this game that I played in the Scotch game. So let's take a look. Okay, so let's have a look at our game. So just to give you a brief history about it, I played this game roughly, I think, 5 years ago at the North Welsh Open. I was playing in the major competition, which is kind of the, I guess you could say, the level competition just below the Open. And, well, my opponent, he's a decent tournament player, around sort of 16, 15, 1700. I played him, funny enough, a few times actually, because when I used to play in this chess league, he was someone who I played against quite a few times, about 3 or 4 times. I had a good record against him. And, well, this game was great because I guess as a confidence booster for myself, it was good to see how far I'd come. In those games that I played him a few years ago, they've been quite very back and forth games, really struggled against some of his defences. But here I guess you can say really kind of, not to be mean to him, but I quite embarrass him in this opening and really show how much better I was compared to maybe a few years ago. But anyway, I don't want to create some ego for myself. I'll let you be the judge in how you like this game. So we started the game off with e4, e5, and we got into the Scotch Gambit via this move order with d4. Now, as I say, I will be recommending doing this in the actual opening repertoire guide with d4. But back then, I used to play it with the d4 move order because it kind of forces a Scotch Gambit after e takes. You get it via this transposition, and I prefer playing it this way at that particular time. But we'll look at some more mainline stuff when we look in the actual guide. But in any case, here are your ideas with the Scotch Gambit. Get your pieces out very quickly, number one. Get yourself castled, and you've also got these different pawn breaks with e5 being pushed against the knight coming out, and then against, if that doesn't work, then you've got c3, and if the pawn takes, you get another piece out, which is very good. You get this queen out to b3, which is also very good, and you should have a very decent position, and 99% of the time. So in the game, though, my opponent played d6. This is, I guess you can say, is a solid way of playing against the Scotch Gambit. It's not brilliant because the difficulty is this bishop here on f8 is a little bit hemmed in. But often you'll see this bishop come to e7, a little bit like a Hungarian defence, and black's going to play just really solidly and try and hold the position. Again, this is tournament chess we're talking about. A lot of players like to really fight tooth and nail in these positions and hopefully not get blown off the board very quickly. Okay, I decided the castle. That actually wasn't the best move. Perhaps just taking here is fine. If this knight ever captures, you get your queen out for free, and not going to have to risk this tempo. And well, this would really be bad for black, as he can't get his bishop out because of my queen. So that's just one example line of what could happen in this one. And then you get some more traditional kind of Scotch Gambit-y stuff. Again, this pawn is always going to be an issue for black because it kind of hems in his development. And while this bishop hasn't really got any amazing squares it could potentially come to along here. But in any case, that didn't happen in the game. I decided to castle, bishop to e7, and now I played c3. And that, obviously, the idea going with that plan of trying to encourage him to take this pawn to get my knight out. Now here my opponent played probably the first weird move of the game, knight to e5. So not a great move because he's not only moved the same piece twice, but it doesn't really help his position at all. After I took here and then pawn takes, I actually have a very good move here that just wins on the spot. In the game, though, I played queen to b3, which is absolutely fine as well, still winning this position. And what's so strong about this is this f7 pawn is now attacked twice with this battery, and I'm also hitting this b7 pawn. So if this bishop were to ever come out, you know, I have options to take it. Obviously I would still take here, and I could think about taking here, but I don't know, maybe with the rook coming here is not so good. But queen takes seems pretty fine. And I had a look at this continuation. That seems okay. It's equal material. I can get my pieces out quite nicely and hopefully get a good game. So just to show you an example, something that looks a little bit like this maybe, or taking here followed by this seems fine for white. I've got this nice pawn duo. I'm going to be pushing forward. This keeps this knight out of bay because of that e5 push as well, which would fork the two pieces. So that sort of stuff didn't really work. Instead, however, I could have played the move queen to h5. That's also really strong. Notice how this queen attacks this f7's pawn. He might be forced to play this, and you take here. And this is so bad for black as well. He's can't play his bishop here because I'm pinning it with the queen. If he does play the knight here, I've got bishop g5, crushing everything coming in. My pieces flow out really well in this position. I've just got a great position against my opponent. So those things didn't happen though. In the actual game, he decided to play bishop to f6. Really not so good. Again, moving the same piece twice again. We were told not to do that in the opening, and well, he just plays it. I think he kind of panicked a bit against this move. I now take this with a check, and his king has to come to this unfortunate square. And what's really good, and I play a very instructive move here, probably engine approved. Let's have a look. Is it engine approved? Yeah, engine approved. What's really good about this move is it utilizes the pawn break here with the open file for the rook, or the semi-open file for the rook, and it just causes all kinds of problems for black. So f4 is played. Really good move. If he takes, you know, I just open up. I think maybe I'll just put my bishop here, start pushing through. Seems absolutely fine. I could even take the rook if I want to. Threatening stuff like this, and this looks very unpleasant for black. In the game, that didn't happen. My opponent just played queen to e7. Now hitting my bishop twice, I move it back, seems fine. I'm now threatening just to take this pawn, so it's still very, very bad for black. And the problem is with this queen coming to e7, he's going to have a real difficult time getting his knight out now. You know, if he just starts doing stuff like this, well, I get this in. And this is very unfortunate. I take this knight. You know, I've got all kinds of problems brewing for black here in this position. So again, not a pleasant decision. All very bad. You can't get this bishop out because there's always this hanging pawn with this queen coming to e7. So a really, really poor move. c6 is played, but it just neglects all development. I can now swing in with f takes and e5, queen takes, and I get my bishop out with development, with a tempo. He now takes this pawn. I'm actually down a pawn in this position, but I don't care because I get all my pieces out. Development's really important in the opening. You know, don't worry so much about, you know, if you lose a pawn here or there. If you get all your pieces out developed and your opponent's got nothing developed, even if you're down a pawn, that's just an amazing position for you. Look at this, you know, I'm getting my rooks. Rooks are going to be at very active squares. This queen is having to move again. It's just a really, really bad position. If I whack on the engine, same +10, you know, and that's the great thing about playing these gambits and playing these types of positions. You know, you're going to get, if your opponent doesn't develop, which happens in tournament chess, you know, and particularly below sort of, I guess, 1800 or 1900 even, you're just going to get a great position. Okay, queen comes to g6, I throw in a check with my bishop. King comes to e8 and I throw another check in, and well, my opponent is getting crushed here. I just love the look of my position, and it really just reminded me of, you know, one of those famous Morphy games where Morphy gets all his pieces developed and all primed for a big attack. Okay, here he plays the move knight to e7, final, I guess you could say, mistake of the game, but there's really not much he can do here. He tries to get something developed, but it's all too late, as now I just take, bishop takes on e7, and actually he resigns in this position. It's just a crushing move. Can't take the king because obviously the rook's there. If he takes the bishop, then bishop to f7 is sufficient enough. There's probably some faster mates somewhere, but I think this would be a crushing move that would lead to black's position falling apart. Yeah, just a crushing game. That was only 18 moves, so really nice miniature game, but just goes to show what happens if you just don't develop properly against this particular line. You know, we had the first mistake, moving the same piece twice. We're told not to do that in the opening. Moving the same piece twice, we're told not to do that, and his position just fell apart. And this, you know, as I say, guys, this was like an 1800, not 1800, sorry, he's like 1650. Not a bad player, but he gets blown off the board. F takes on e5, opening up that semi-open file, and the position just falls apart for black. In any case, I hope you enjoyed this video. As I say, I will put up some of the Scotch stuff. It does exist, by the way. This is one of the parts that I'm working on. So I just need to refine some of it in there. And this is the other one, the part 2. So I will be putting it into about a couple parts because I think it's such a big undertaking looking at the Scotch Gambit. There's so many different lines. I am also looking at some of the more obscure lines like the Latvian Gambit, but these would take a while to do, so I thought I'd put something up in the meantime anyway, just for you to have something to look at just for now. But in any case, thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon. Take care, bye.